Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Urshan, and this is March Badness. And this was created by Derek's Horror Corner, and this is round 2, the Chucky bracket. We're gonna have a lot of fun, guys, pitting our favorite slasher movies against each other in this huge battle, this tournament of epic proportions. And the first round is going to be a real barn burner. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be Child's Play 2, which many consider to be the best in the Child's Play franchise. Yeah, a really enjoyable film. Definitely is one of the best horror sequels out there. Really enjoy it. It's really fun. Chucky has some of his best one-liners in there. Great performance once again by Brad Dourif. Awesome movie. It's a great sequel. And you have that epic finale at the toy store there. It's amazing. And Child's Play 2 is going to be taking on Wolf Creek, which is one of my absolute favorite slasher movies of the 2000s. And this was loosely based around the true events of the Australian backpacker killer. And I just think it's amazing. I love John Jarrett's performance as Mick Taylor. Probably my favorite horror icon of the 2000s. Awesome movie with great gore effects, some nasty kills in there, and it's just edgy, seed action. Alright, who's gonna win this round? Woo! This is going to be a barn burner. And I might get some flack for this, but it's going to be Wolf Creek over Child's Play 2. Yes, Wolf Creek moves on. Next up, it's going to be Child's Play 3, taking on Alice, Sweet Alice, one of the best slashers from the 1970s. This movie is just loaded with great atmosphere. It's such a creepy film, and this is proof that a slasher movie can be scary and with great atmosphere and great performances. And I love the mystery of it as well. Child's Play 3, I think, is an overlooked and underrated entry in the franchise. I think it's a lot of fun. It's got some great humor. Once again, you got some more of Chucky's best one-liners in there. And I also love the setting at the military academy. It was something different. With that being said, who's going to win this round? Ooh, it's going to be Alice, Sweet Alice. More people need to be talking about this movie because this movie is just awesome. Like I said, it's one of the best slashers from the 1970s, and it's highly underrated, and it's just fantastic. People really need to check this movie out. Alright, next up it's going to be Scream 2. Great sequel, excellent follow-up to the original Scream, which is one of the most important horror films of the 90s. And you have most of the cast returning from the original. You got Neve Campbell killing it once again as Sidney Prescott. You got Courtney Cox, David Arquette. And I love how it progresses the story. You get more of the Cotton Weary story there. And you got a great twist on the killer there. Scream 2 is an excellent follow-up. Taking on Blood Rage. That's not cranberry sauce. This is a movie that I found about through the horror community, really, watching other people doing videos on it and reviews on the film. It's got some awesome special makeup effects, some awesome gore effects. It's really funny. It's got that campy 80s sleaze. It's just got such a great charm about it. Yeah, really fun movie. So who's going to win this round? Scream 2 versus Blood Rage. And for me, it's going to be Scream 2. You can't deny the quality of this film, how it's such a great follow-up. It's one of the best horror sequels of all time. It really keeps some of that thrill and chill that we got in the original film, as well as being very funny. It has that great parody on the slasher genre. Some great twists and turns. So yeah, I love Scream 2. Next up, it's going to be Maniac, which is my favorite standalone slasher film from 1980 with some amazing gore effects by the great Tom Savini. Amazing performance by Joe Spinell as Frank Zito. I think it's a great psychological study inside the mind of a maniac, a serial killer. It's so raw and gritty and realistic, I think. And it's got some really creepy scenes. And Maniac is taking on Wrong Turn, the franchise that's still going on to this day. And this is the original from 2003. Yeah, I really enjoyed this film. It's a great callback to, like, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre style, family of cannibals type, the inbred hillbilly thing. And a good mix of, like, Deliverance. A lot of fun, really, really good movie. I really enjoy it. And with that being said, the winner is going to be Maniac. My favorite standalone slasher film, period. And one of the best of the 80s, without a doubt. I love the realism, I love the raw grittiness of it, and the performance by Joe Spinell. Outstanding movie. Next round is going to be Halloween 2, yes, from 1981. And this is the Scream Factory Steelbook I recently got, which is awesome. I've talked about this movie ad nauseum on my channel. You guys know I love it, and you guys know I feel it's the greatest horror sequel of all time. And I don't need to say much more about that. And Halloween 2 is taking on Motel Hell. A really fun slasher from the 80s as well. And it's a good time. It's a blast, and I enjoy it. And it's funny. But it cannot compare to Halloween 2 in any way. So this is a blowout. Halloween blows it out of the water. This is an awesome slasher movie that's got all the thrills and chills of the original. It's still scary. It's got an amazing Michael Myers, awesome kills. This movie is just amazing. Halloween 2 all the way. Next up is going to be an interesting matchup. Happy Birthday to Me, which is an excellent slasher movie from 1981 starring Melissa Sue Anderson from Little House on the Prairie fame. This has a great, like, complicated plot that you would not normally see in a slasher movie. And I love the mystery of it. It's got some of that Italian giallo feel to it, like the Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci, Mario Bava type stuff. Yeah, really great mystery, and I love the characters, and it's got some awesome kills too, and great gore effects. And Happy Birthday to Me is taking on Freddie versus Jason, a very controversial entry in both franchises. It seems that people either love or hate this movie. I'm one of the people that loves it. I absolutely love Freddie vs. Jason. I have such a good time whenever I watch it. I just love seeing these two titans of horror going at it. And to me, this movie just delivers on everything that it's supposed to. It brings the blood and gore and spades. And I think both characters are very well represented. I do enjoy Ken Kirzinger as Jason Voorhees. I like his style, that kind of Frankenstein's monster kind of feel. You know, it's different, and I like it. And the look of Jason is great. And you got one of the best performances by Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. He's amazing. He just kills it here. He's funny. He's scary. He's menacing, and he's awesome. Love Freddy vs. Jason. So, who is going to win that round? Oh, that's tough. Because I do love Happy Birthday to Me. I think it's definitely an underrated slasher, but it's going to be Freddy vs. Jason. Yes, I love this movie, and I think it's underrated. A lot of people hate it, and I don't really get it. I love this movie. Next up, it's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning. and that is the prequel to the remake from 2003, which was a really solid remake. And I even like Texas Chainsaw Massacre the beginning better than the remake. I don't know, I just liked it. It's got some awesome gore effects, and I loved seeing a little bit of Leatherface's background, how he came to be who he is, you know. And I love seeing him working at the slaughterhouse, and it's got some brutal kills. I love seeing R. Lee Ermey return as Sheriff Hoyt, and he does another great performance. And yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre beginning is taking on Slumber Party Massacre, which is a really popular slasher from the 80s. I'm not really a huge fan of Slumber Party Massacre, I'll be honest. I thought it was fun. But was it a great movie? Not really. It's just a fun slasher, and it's kind of sleazy, you know, but it's a good time, but I don't think it's really a great movie, whereas I do really think Texas Chainsaw Massacre Beginning is a really solid movie. So moving on, next round is going to be Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Which is one of the best in the entire franchise. And it's amazing that such a late entry in the franchise is so good, but it really is. And I love the fact that they brought something different to this movie. Tom McLaughlin did a great job at the direction, you know, and it's a parody of slasher movies, but at the same time is a really solid slasher movie. Kind of in the vein of Scream, you know. I wonder if you would have Scream without this movie. And Friday the 13th Part 6 is taking on I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I really enjoyed the original, but I thought the sequel did not quite hold up. It did not quite live up to the original, even though it did have a lot of the returning cast with Jennifer Love Hewitt and all that, Freddie Prinze Jr., I just feel like it wasn't as good. The direction wasn't as good. Something was missing, and I just didn't enjoy it as much. So, Friday the 13th Part 6 easily gets the win in that round. I love Jason Lives. I think it's amazing, and like I said, one of the best in the Friday the 13th franchise, without a doubt. Next up is going to be a really tough matchup, and that is Wolf Creek taking on Alice, Sweet Alice. Like I said, one of the best slashers from the 70s. And like I said, I feel like more people need to be talking about this movie. This is fantastic. One of the best slasher movies, period. Man. So this is going to be really tough for me. You got one of the best slashers of the 2000s taking on one of the best from the 70s. I guess it comes down to I'm more of a 70s guy, so Alice, Sweet Alice, is going to get the win on that round. Tough one, though. Very tough. Next is going to be Scream 2 taking on Maniac. Now, as I said before, I absolutely love Maniac. I think it's a fantastic movie. And Scream 2 is an excellent follow-up. So that's a really tough one. And I think it's going to come down to the fact that Maniac is a more original film. And it's more realistic, where Scream 2 is just a really good follow-up to the original, which is a better film. So I am going to go Maniac on this round. Next up, it's going to be Halloween 2 taking on Freddie versus Jason. So yeah, that's a tough one. But as I said, I feel Halloween 2 is the greatest horror sequel of all time. And Freddie vs. Jason is a lot of fun, but it is flawed. It's got several flaws. It's got some cheesy CGI in there. It's got some really campy, over-the-top moments. So I'm going to go with Halloween 2 for the win there. Next up, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Beginning, taking on Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. That's a pretty good matchup. But But Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning, it does its part to further screw up the timeline of the Texas Chainsaw franchise. So it's guilty of that. Whereas Friday the 13th Part 6 is just another great sequel and a great franchise. And it's so memorable, it stands out, and you got my favorite Jason in the franchise, and that is C.J. Graham. I love his mannerisms, I love everything he does as the character. I just think he's the perfect Jason. And yeah, I love the humor in this movie. It's got some awesome kills. This movie is just awesome. Alright guys, next round is going to be a real tough one, and that is Alice, Sweet Alice, taking on Maniac from 1980. Woo! That is a really tough one. That is very tough for me, man. It really is. Whew. Man, it's really tough to decide, but as I said, my favorite standalone slasher, so that's why Maniac is going to win this round. Because I think it's the best made standalone slasher ever. And I love the psychological study inside the mind of a maniac, inside the mind of a serial killer. And that raw grittiness, that realism, that's what wins it for me. Next up, it's going to be Halloween 2. Taking on Friday the 13th Part 6. We got Freddie versus Jason. I'm sorry, we got Michael Myers versus Jason. Freddie versus Jason. So yeah, Halloween 2 taking on Friday the 13th Part 6. Both excellent sequels to their respective franchises. But my favorite horror sequel of all time gets the win. Halloween 2 from 1981. You see I'm wearing the Halloween 2 shirt right here from Fright Rags. Alright guys, the next round is going to be Maniac taking on none other than Halloween 2. Ooh, that is tough, huh? My favorite standalone slasher going up against my favorite sequel to my favorite horror movie of all time, Halloween. Who is going to get the win? You know me, you know it's going to be Halloween 2 all day, the classic sequel from 1981 with the amazing Michael Myers performance by Dick Warlock. This movie's scary, it's got incredible kills, and the kills are so beautifully shot. This whole movie is so beautifully shot, with amazing cinematography from Dean Cundy and direction by Rick Rosenthal. And John Carpenter still had his hands in this one, very much so. And you got the amazing score, which sounds a lot more gothic. So yes, Halloween 2 gets the win. Halloween 2 wins the Chucky bracket of March Badness. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. That was so much fun. And once again, give a shout out to Derek's Horror Corner for coming up with this really cool and fun concept. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Urshan, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared.